Hello, welcome to Talk Local on Rogers TV. I'm Haley Zimak. Kitchener Centre Conservative MP Stephen Woodworth is calling for another look at Canada's law concerning human rights before the moment of complete birth. He says Parliament has a responsibility to lead this examination, stating that under the law, a child is not considered human before the moment of complete birth. What do you think? This is what we're asking you at home. Do we need to have a national conversation on this, on fetal rights? Is this the right time to have such a talk? Our phone number 519-893-6905. We're on Twitter as well at TalkLocalWR. You can email us to talklocal@rogers.com. And a reminder, please don't wait till the end of the show to share your thoughts. Mr. Woodworth will be on for a few segments, followed by a philosophy professor who deals with medical ethics and KW Right to Life, as well as Planned Parenthood Waterloo region. So again, get those questions and comments in now if you can. Joining us now is Kitchener Centre MP Stephen Woodworth. Stephen, thank you for your time this evening.
You're very welcome.
So let's talk a little bit about this. Why is this the right time to lead this examination, knowing likely that it'll cause a discussion, if not a debate?
Yeah, in fact, I would like it to cause a good, respectful discussion, because I think it's a very important issue. I think that when you look at a law that says that a child is not a human being before the moment of complete birth, you need to ask yourself, is that an honest and an accurate law? Is there really any relevant scientific evidence which suggests that a child somehow transforms one moment to the next? And if not, then ask yourself, in Canada in the 21st century, in a free democracy, is it right that we should have a law which defines as not human someone who really is a human being? Mm-hmm. So it seems to me this is an issue with very wide-reaching implications, and I know it's relevant to the abortion question. I know that people are interested in the abortion question, but to me, the notion that a law would define any person as not a human being on the basis of essentially irrelevant and non-principled or non-justified facts rather than medical evidence is just wrong. And I think if people look at it, they will agree.
So so basically then this law does not give any rights, any protection to an unborn baby between conception to complete birth?
Yeah, until the moment of complete birth, the law doesn't recognize a child as a human being. And of course, if you're not a human being, then your interests and your claims or anything about you really isn't recognized in law. So the issue is that legitimate? And the odd thing about it is that this law was adopted by Canada from a principle which, as far as I can see, is at least 400 years old. I've done some research and discovered in 1642 law this principle, sometimes known as the born alive principle. And you can understand it from the point of view of people in the 17th century when medicine was practiced with leeches and bloodletting, and no one had any conception, any idea of what was going on in the development of a child before birth. Mm-hmm. But it's not quite so easy to understand from the point of view of the 21st century, when just in the last 30, 40, 50 years we've made incredible advances in understanding the development of a child. So my idea is that really Parliament does have a responsibility and even a duty to ensure that a law defining a human being with such important implications is informed by 21st century medical knowledge rather than a 400-year-old archaic legal principle. And
we'll talk a little bit about those implications. I just want to get to the caller on the line. So Ben from St. Agatha, go ahead, please.
Hi. Saturday's National posted a great article that this debate has really fizzled in Canada. We all know that Stephen's end goal here is to reopen the abortion debate with the end goal of making abortion illegal. I feel that Canadian courts are where this issue belongs. The issue is settled, and we don't want to talk about it. My question concerns the use of MPs to debate this. The House of Commons is only 25% female. Therefore, this debate concerning female bodies would be decided by men. How is this appropriate?
Ben, thank you very much for your call. And that is something that you hear, right?
Sure.
Should a man have a decision over what a woman does with her body?
Yeah, and if I may, I'd like to just correct something that the caller said in his preamble, and that is that the matter belongs in the courts. In fact, if you look at the court decisions, as I have, you will see that almost without exception, the judges who have commented on this have said that the question of what recognition we should give to the interests of children before birth is really a matter for Parliament. And that's a pretty clear statement from the courts, and so it is really a duty of Parliament to come to grips with it. As to the question of the makeup of Parliament and the fact that it's 25% women and 75% men, it's a feature of our democracy. Maybe not a great one, but I think it's possible for parliamentarians using their natural abilities to call for evidence and to consider the principles involved in discerning when someone should be called a human being and when someone should not be considered a human being. And I don't think that gender prevents us from considering those issues.
Another point he had was this is closed, basically. He said Canada doesn't want to discuss this. Do you think that we're ready, that this is a discussion that needs to be had?
Well, actually, the interesting thing about that is that most Canadians are not aware of this law. According to an Angus Reid survey that I found from 2010, not that long ago, 79% of Canadians believe that Canada does have some protection for children before the moment of complete birth. So the first thing that I need to do is to make sure that the discussion is informed by that, and that people understand that that's not what our law is. And the second thing is that polls have been done as recently as October of 2011 by Environics, which suggests that when Canadians know that there are no protections for children before the moment of complete birth, 72% of Canadians would support protections for children before birth.
Okay, and we will continue on with this conversation. Still more to say. We will take a quick break. We'll come back right after this. Hi, welcome back. Thanks for joining us on Talk Local, discussing a Canadian law concerning human rights. So we do have MP Stephen Woodworth in studio with us. We're going to continue on with the conversation. First, though, we'll go to an email sent in by a viewer here. So we'll get that up on the screen for you at home. And it says, the Criminal Code of Canada defines the human fetus as a child before it becomes a human being. The code only confers the title human being on the child when it is completely outside the mother's body. This definition is a remnant of the past and has no place in a just society. How is it that Canada excludes one whole class of humans from the archaic definition of human being? I'm sure the 380,000 happily pregnant couples who give birth this year will question why their children's lives are not protected. So thank you for that email. Again, if you'd like to get involved in this conversation, 519-893-6905. We're on Twitter at TalkLocalWR or email talklocal@rogers.com. So there's a comment towards your cause there, but I wanted to mention something because it's muddy. It seems to be a little bit of misconception concerning the whole thing, because if you take a look at the criminal code, it does say that a person commits homicide when he causes injury to a child before or during its birth, as a result of which the child dies after becoming a human being.
Yes.
So does this not...
Well, no, there are three things about that. The first is, of course, that even under that section, the child has to survive through to complete birth, because the child is not a human being until the child survives through to complete birth.
This is before or during its birth, though.
That's when the injury occurs, but
okay.
if may I read it aloud and you'll understand it when I read it. A person commits homicide when he causes injury to a child before or during its birth, as a result of which the child dies after becoming a human being.
So it has to be...
So the death has to occur after the child has survived through to complete birth. If the child has not survived through to complete birth, the child is not a human being, and that section isn't invoked. However, more to the point...
It's quite reading into it quite literally, though, because...
No, that's precisely what it says.
Sure, but I mean, think of if part of the child was still inside and it was coming out and it's breathing and it's alive and, you know, something were to happen. Surely that, just because the definition isn't there, it's still a criminal...
No, it's not, because the child is not a human being. That's the point when it says when the child becomes a human being. As a result of which the child dies after becoming a human being. So until the child becomes a human being, and that has to be under the definition in the criminal code, which is the moment of complete birth, until that moment, that particular provision has no application. But even more to the point, even for those children who do survive through to the moment of complete birth, you would look in vain to find any prosecution under that section. And according to Margaret Somerville, who's an ethicist at McGill, Statistics Canada reports that between the year 2000 and 2005, 241 children died as a result of termination of pregnancy, infants and rather newborn and infants and newborn, I think is the phrase. And her conclusion from that statistic is that it does not refer to successful abortions. It must refer to children who were born alive and subsequently died of their injuries, just as that provision would say. But there are no prosecutions under it. And finally, even if there was a prosecution under that section, such limited protection is a far cry from actually recognizing a human being as a human being. And to me, Canada is a place where we do recognize human beings as human beings. We don't try and say that they're not.
Well, the Canadian Medical Association limits abortions to 20 weeks in gestation. Late term cannot be done electively. So if an abortion is being regulated to a certain extent outside of the criminal code, why are fetal rights an issue?
Well, actually, I think the statistic is